Have you ever wondered if you were on the right track? Have you ever wondered if you're succeeding in life and what that means? And like, what's the goal? What's the metric? What's the KPI to use a fancy businessy term? How do you know if you're like doing the right thing, optimizing for that right factor or that right attribute? What does succeeding, what does winning look like for you? Well, you probably know someone who has money but is miserable. You probably know someone that maybe they're happy, but they're not living up to their full potential. So I really think that this happiness, fulfillment, success thing you're chasing, it's up to you what that goal is and what that turns into. And there's just some things in life where the longer you think about it and the more you try to wrap it around your head, the more it slips through your fingers. And I would say to you that if you are doubting yourself, if you're wondering if you are on the right track, or you just want to know if things are going okay for you, think about this. Are you adapting? Because if you consider the dinosaurs, right? 65 million years ago, asteroid hit the planet, killed all the dinosaurs, but it didn't kill all life, right? Sharks survived, ants survived, cockroaches, little tiny mammals, which evolved into humans. So the things that stayed around, the things that thrived, were those things that adapted. And maybe you've known someone who was born into money, or someone who got lucky one time and then didn't do anything right the rest of their life or the rest of their career. And so think, or maybe even just something changed in the marketplace, right? Maybe their industry was completely, what's the term, disrupted, right? Maybe they were laid off and they couldn't get that same job that they had before. And you really look at people who maybe, if they have a goal and they get so off track and they get so lost in the weeds, as they say, and they got so bogged down in the details that maybe you thought less of that person and you couldn't quite really put your finger on it, because you say, well, why do I respect that person slightly less than before they went down this rabbit hole, before they went down this track? And you think, well, is it that they're not hardworking or they're not smart? No, well, no, it's because they did not adapt. So consider how you can adapt to whatever changes are happening in your life or in your marketplace. If you have to be on video chat in order to land the clients that you know you need to land, or if you know that you need to be on video chat in order to be on YouTube, even if the camera's not 100% perfect or the lighting is not 100% perfect, what do you need to adapt to in order to get to the level of income that you want, and your business and your happiness and all, whatever the boxes that you want to tick? Are you adapting in order to get there? And we're going to be talking with you and to you about 3 invisible income streams that you should and need to be getting on track here and getting set up right now here today, because that's what it's all about, right? If you are in business and you're not making money, your business is not succeeding. And if your business is making money, then now that means more comfort for you. That means less stress. And that means that the money that your business builds can then be put towards whatever good that you want to put it towards. And if the good means that your house is paid off, your bills are paid off, great. If the good means that you want to donate to a cause, establish a nonprofit, well, your business, for step 1, needs to make money in order to do all the other things that you know that you need to do in life. But if you're like me, you've been blocked. You've had obstacles. You had to zigzag. And then after a while, it turned into, well, I thought I was headed towards this goal. Maybe I hit that goal, but it led to this other goal, and it never ends. And you know what? I'll admit it. There have been so many times where I've been let down by my gurus, my mentors, my heroes. I was told, well, you have to buy this product and it'll solve all your problems. And I bought it, spent $2,000 on something, and it kind of worked, but not quite. Right? I heard, well, you need to go to this live event and meet that person and they'll solve all your problems. And sometimes I've met a person and hired them as a mentor, joined their mastermind, met with them every month. And after a while, it seems like their knowledge kind of falls off a cliff, runs out. And then I feel worse than when I started. And I think, man, I almost wish I hadn't met that person, because I've just been let down by my mentors and heroes. And one thing that kind of really hurts looking back at, and I know it's not good to dwell on the past, but I was thinking the other day about, I joined a mastermind and there were a lot of stage speakers in that mastermind, and they would let all these other stage speakers present at this event and that event, and they would kind of help each other out. And I always felt passed over, left out, left behind, second-class citizen. And it's good and bad, because the bad is dwelling on the past. The good is learning from your mistakes. But then there's always like the regret of thinking like, man, if I was in a group of people and they only got me so far and they didn't not get me to where I needed to go, I should have joined some other group or replaced them with some other group or created my own group. Shoulda, woulda, coulda. And if you have that feeling, that you're trapped by your inner circle, and for some of us, inner circle is family or like business associates. And if you just feel like everyone's holding you back or getting you so far, but not any further, well, then you can and you should be building your own network. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Because if you think about it, a lot of these details don't matter. Like if you think of like, it's always easy to go to like the super famous extreme business owner, internet marketer, entrepreneur examples, right? You think of like a Tim Ferriss, Gary Vaynerchuk, Joe Rogan, right? Those are kind of almost household names, and they're extreme examples. So you can look at, well, what are they doing right? How are they adapting better than I am? And how can I maybe ride their coattails or tap into what they're doing? So you think of Tim Ferriss, he is a podcaster. His show is called The Tim Ferriss Show. Joe Rogan has a podcast, love him or hate him. I don't like him all that much, but he has a podcast called The Joe Rogan Experience. And Gary Vaynerchuk, I'm almost positive he has a podcast, but I cannot for the life of me think of what the name of that podcast is. And it's probably like the Gary V Show or Experience or something like that, or maybe like Gary V Daily or something along those lines. So a lot of these details that are holding you back do not matter. And so what I want for you is to leave a lot of the details behind and do the things that you know that you need to do that may be temporarily uncomfortable, but then lead you to bigger and better things later, and not being held back by your usual inner circle of friends, and build your own inner circle that will get you to maybe the next stage of your life and your business. So let's think about why. Why do your days seem full of incidents of self-sabotage when you try to figure it all out yourself? When you try to go it alone, you say, you know, other people slow me down, drag me down. No one can go as fast as me. I'll just do it all myself. But then it gets lonely, then you get stuck, and you get trapped in your own way of thinking. I don't know how true it is, but I heard something the other day that we repeat 95% of our thoughts over and over. And that's really depressing, right? Because if you're just living the same day over and over, then like, where's your life going? Your whole life could be compressed into just a handful of unique days. That doesn't sound like you're really getting very far at all. And why is it that, well, even if you have a support system, you seem to feel like left out or like behind, and you can't seem to really catch up to the they seem to be bragging bigger and bigger numbers and bigger successes. And you're like, how can I even catch up? Or why is it that if you find a hero or a mentor, then it's only a matter of time before they kill your dreams of them? Well, I could be wrong here, but this, the solution to all this clicked when one time I was at an event in Las Vegas, and I talked to I think he was like a former physician or something, and he bought all these courses, and he was talking about how he tried this method of making money, tried this with internet marketing. He kept jumping from thing to thing. And I held my tongue because I knew that his problem was the lack of attention and lack of follow through, but that's okay. But what really sits with me even today is he said something like, I've spent $62,541 on all these products that don't work. And I thought, what a miserable way to think about things, right? To think about all the bad and all the negative and all the investment, when instead it made me wonder, well, what kind of action have you taken? What have you spent this month? Out of all that money that you spent, how much money have you generated? And so this person's problem was he kept on adding, buying more things, learning new things, buying a new book, buying a new product, doing all the stuff. And he was adding instead of taking away. And this hurts my brain to think about, but I know that means that I'm on the right track, because it's easy to say, I want more. Think about all the clutter in your house. Think about all the obligations that you have. Think about all the little things that are pulling you in all these different directions, because just by naturally not having a plan and letting yourself be pulled in this direction and letting this side project creep in, then you end up with more. And I want you to think about, what in your life could you and should you take away so that way you can get more accomplished. I think about, I stopped paying for live cable TV when I was 22 years old, and it was one of the best decisions I ever made. And now with all the streaming services, you can go and dial in what you want to watch, TV or movies, but you're choosing to do it. I don't check my email very often. I check it a few times a day. I wish I could check it once a week. Maybe that's a goal to aspire to. I don't have my phone on me a lot of times, or if I do, I have many of the notifications off, or I have it like face down. And I haven't taken my phone off silent since probably 2006 anyway. It's been decades. And so there's little changes like that of taking away can open up a lot more time, not only in the day, but open up like headspace and open up time for your business to get to where you need to go faster. Because if you don't get to what you need to get to fast enough, then other, even more obstacles will get in the way, right? And if you aren't building the business fast enough, building the list fast enough, building the money fast enough, well, then your bills will eventually catch up to you, right? And so, and also won't excite you. If you had a business that was making you $11 every month and that was it, it would be hard to get excited about that. But if you saw some real results, if you saw things growing and growing and you saw real progress, then you would be motivated to do more. And so do you really want more to do? Because at first you think, oh yeah, I want more, right? I want more candy, I want more ice cream. But if you want more responsibilities, you're crazy. And no one wants more fires to put out, and no one wants more chaos. And in your business probably does go through cycles of, like, you have a phase of putting out all this chaos and trying all these things and experimenting. But then it comes a time when it becomes too much, and you have to maybe examine what worked and what didn't, and figure out make those painful decisions and decide what to cut, what to delete. And then that opens you up for what to do more of. But it's not just about doing more. The whole idea of optimizing, or 80-20, is delete what's dead weight, delete what is not working, but then double down on more of what is working. And this has always been my problem, and I think it's everyone's problem, is just more ideas, more domain names, more websites. But the solution is to take away. And have you heard this expression? We all have the same 24 hours in a day. And it's true, but it's not true, right? Because you have the same 24 hours as like Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, Steve Jobs. You've heard all of that before. But what pisses me off is, yeah, but do you really think that Mark Zuckerberg like takes his kids to school every day? Or do you think that Mark Zuckerberg like changes every single diaper? So it's easy to drive yourself crazy, because some people have a better system than you, put more money into their day than you, have more of a strategy than you. So they have the same 24 hours in a day that you do, but they don't have all the same obligations. And there are things that you're doing that are getting in the way of your success. I mean, just alone, a couple of those things we just mentioned. Imagine if you checked your email half as much as you do right now. If you checked your email 20 times a day, maybe if you only checked it 10 times, imagine what you could get accomplished if, instead of reading Facebook or reading your email all those times, what if you sent out a quick message to someone that you have not heard from in a while, or someone that used to buy from you a while ago and did not, or someone that maybe you had a sales call 6 months ago. You whip out the phone, you record a quick 30-second, 60-second video, send it off. You drop a quick postcard in the mail. You send a quick email blast to your list. There are lots of little itty-bitty tiny tasks that you could just put in the place of all these existing time-wasting activities. But you think in those terms, and where does it lead? It leads to, well, you need to work on your business, not in your business, they say, right? And that's when I start to get a little nervous, and the heart starts pumping a little bit faster. And I think to myself, oh no, where are they going with this? And they say that really dreaded word, outsourcing. And I don't know about you, but I don't like that word. And it's unfortunate that like we have to use it that way, that, you know, we're talking about, you know, hiring employees, get someone else to do the work, all those things. But it really drives you crazy, because there's so much negative baggage attached to it. I wonder if there's such a thing as positive baggage, but the negative baggage is you're thinking, okay, well, all this money comes in, but then a little sliver, I guess I'll get to have in a few years. And this, everything else in the pie chart, I have to reinvest and hire this person and pay that person. And then someone else is doing the work, but I still have to assign the work and check the work. And I just hate that term of outsourcing, but it's also a thing that we all need to do, right? We can't do it all ourselves. And so I have a podcast and I have all these interviewees on it, and they all kind of, maybe about half, 50% of them try to work in a poor man's version of the E-Myth. And like basically the concept of this book, the E-Myth, is that if you own a bakery, you own a pie shop, you love to bake pies, but there's only so many pies you can bake in a day, but you love doing it. So then what you do is you end up saying, well, I also need to run a business. I also need to market my business. And you end up doing all these things that just like tire you out and shoot yourself in the foot. And the answer is to create a checklist and systematize and get employees to basically replicate your artistry, your genius. And then that way you can expand, and then you just manage it, and then you manage the manager. But I hate that term outsourcing. And I'm looking to take away, not add. And I'm looking to make things simple for you and me speaking right now today. So I know that I'm doing a lot better this year, this past 12 or 18 months with outsourcing, and maybe you are too, but I know that we're all not outsourcing enough, even though I hate that term. And who wants more facts and figures? Because I noticed this in myself, is so many times when I want to know the exact specifications and I say, oh, well, if you want to run my podcast for me, is it this bit rate or is it that bit rate? Or should I use this microphone or that microphone? And it's good to ask detailed questions about what it is that you want to set up. But after a while, is the relentless chain of asking question after question, are you just trying to talk yourself out of it after a while? It's perfectly okay to say, I know I need a podcast, and what camera should I use and what microphone should I use? And those are good questions. And the answer is whatever you have right now. That way you can just get started right now. But what if you got to the point where you said, well, what brand of data cables should I get? And what brand of foam padding should I put on in my office? And what color wall should I paint behind me? And you can see how eventually you're asking questions of yourself that you don't really want the answer to. You're just hoping to get more questions. That way you don't have to take action. And we all fall into it. But maybe think about that. If you say, I need a new website, and, should I host it on like Wix or WordPress or Squarespace? Whatever you use, whatever you're familiar with, whatever you can get set up the fastest, host it on that. But so many of the minor details don't matter. And many times you are, unfortunately, lying to yourself because you think you're asking the right questions, but you're really just trying to find a reason not to do it. So think about this. Take away from not only yourself, but from the people that you're trying to get as customers for your business, right? And we all think of takeaway as something that's bad, right? Like, I'm going to snatch this away from you, or you can't buy this, or you can't have this. But taking away can be a good thing if you're thinking in terms of, well, I'm removing some of the steps, right? And instead of this taking all this extra time for you to, I'm trying to get up, there we go. Instead of it to being like a 20-step process for you setting up a podcast, what if it was just, I did it for you, and it was just a few questions on your part and very few steps. And the other thing that I always wrestle with, and maybe you do too, is in being too informative, too step by step, and not having enough time to fit it all in, and then going off on all the other tracks and maybe talking yourself out of a sale because you're kind of giving too many facts and figures, right? It's almost like how we were saying a problem with that you could have at times is asking yourself so many questions that you talk yourself out of buying. Maybe you're also projecting that as well. Maybe you're throwing out too many step-by-step actions that you're talking someone else out of buying from you. And instead of thinking about facts and figures and like the history of this, think about what problems do people have and what can you document and write down and show something that you've solved, or talk about a story or an adventure that you have been through. So that way you're not just delivering fact after fact, you're talking about real things that are happening. And speaking of real things that are happening, we have all these different podcast clients, and over the years, some of these people have amazed me, and they have redefined what I have thought of as a podcast. So here's one of our clients that we have had for 8 years. His name is Dr. Charles Reynolds. He pays us thousands of dollars per month. We meet with him every week. And when he wants to talk about something, if he wants to talk about provoked vestibulodynia, then he will just click the record button, talk about it, 1 minute, 53 seconds, get a few hundred views. And just whenever he has something to talk about, whether it's something like personal or something medical, he just records it and he puts it out there. And then he reuses some of this years later, because some of this is evergreen content. And that means that around the holidays, he has a YouTube video in here somewhere that is all about how to deal with depression. He has something that's all about how to deal with death. And so unfortunately, some issues come up in the public eye again and again. So here's his, a person who watched over 1,000 people die. This is an old blog post of his, but he's reusing this evergreen content again and again, and in multiple ways. So you see even this, and I think we saw it back in that YouTube list, but he was out for a walk, who knows how many years ago, had his phone, clicked the record button, spoke out what he wanted to record, and then we kind of have some, not quite a transcript, but I guess you could kind of call it podcast notes. And there are links, and he talks about psychiatry and mass shootings and defeat, fatigue, and fear. And so this is something that we've already seen he's used it in 3 different ways, right? We've seen that he records this video, he put it on YouTube, he put it on a blog post. You saw it on Facebook, and I've seen him post this and bring this back to life again and again. He blasted it to his email list. I'm sure if I go and check his Twitter, so you can see this idea of you look at what help people need, what steps they need removed for you to make it simple for them. You record something quick, and then you apply it and you use it in all these different ways. But am I getting into, well, use this exact software to schedule out your tweets, or use this exact camera lens for your phone, or use this exact recording software? No, I'm saying just do it. Just figure it out. We're just talking about the high level strategy. And so many of the details in your life in general and in your business are going to come over time, right? It means that, well, someone might say, use this camera or use this podcast host, and that might be right for them. But what is right for you? The only way you're going to know is by going ahead and doing it. And sometimes in the spirit of adapting, you need to be thinking about 4 types of thinking. And also, so many times with podcasting or even a webinar like this one, or even like blog posts, I'll just be trying out ideas. And especially if I'm stuck, if I have an idea for something I want to put in a book or a course, I'll try out a piece of it and just kind of see either how it lands or see how I can put it into words. And so there's this idea that I've been working on a book for a few weeks now. And it's kind of like one of many side projects, because there's a lot more pressing things. And when I have a little bit of time, I'll maybe tweak a page here and there. But this idea's been stuck in my head. This idea of 4 types of thinking, 4 types of creativity. And you might have seen it expressed in a grid form like this. And they basically say that there are 4 types of thinking. That they say that there is like a cognitive way of thinking, which means you use logic, you use facts and figures. There's cognitive. And then they say that there is emotional thinking, where you use your gut feeling, right? And we all really, we make decisions based on emotion, but then we justify it based on logic. And we think that we're logical people, but really we're mostly emotional people. And ideally there might be a blend between the two, but you sometimes think logically, and then you sometimes think emotionally. And the emotion is where the real magic happens. This is where you really make up your mind on something, but it's unpredictable, right? It's kind of a wild card. And so I think we need both. I think that the cognitive thinking is a little weaker, but the emotional thinking is more of like an unpredictable, out of control fire hose. So we sometimes think logically, we sometimes think emotionally. But then within that, there is what they call deliberate, if I can fit all the words in, there's deliberate cognitive thinking, which means that you're just showing up, right? You're showing up, you're putting in the time, you're putting in the work. That gets you through so many times. Think about if you were ever stuck writing a term paper for college or high school, or you were just had to do something that you did not want to do. Just show up, just do it. Just go through the motions. Just put 10 minutes in, just put an hour in. And so many times that gets you through it, but not always, right? Well, what else gets you through it? Well, then there's deliberate emotional, where this is where sometimes you sit down and you just think about your life. You examine the past, you kind of weigh the pros and cons. Haven't you ever sometimes just thought back about past patterns and past habits, and you thought like, okay, well, I used to be like that, but now I'm better. Or, that was a good idea back then. Maybe I should revisit that. Or, because I made that mistake, that led to this other success later on. And so this helps you not 100% of the time, but those times that you need it. And then there is a thing called spontaneous cognitive thinking. And we'll move on from this in a moment. I apologize if this is too far off of a tangent, but spontaneous cognitive is basically the whole idea of like Isaac Newton was sitting around and an apple fell on his head, where suddenly you get like a flash of logic, where you think of something that like, oh, that came out of nowhere, and that really helped me. And then there's spontaneous emotional, which is basically the magic. This is when those handful of times in your life you have those life-changing ideas. But if your entire thought process hinged around just the magic, hinged around when you get those really great ideas, your life wouldn't get anywhere. So I think that you need all four of these quadrants. I think that most of the time it's a matter of showing up, doing the work, grinding it out. And then lesser, but definitely not 0% of the time, there's sometimes those times when you think back about the past, or you have those insights, or you have just the really crazy ideas that really get you there. And it's okay if you don't even remember or keep track of every single one of these quadrants. But the point is that there are just those four types of thinking. There are times when, if we can figure out how to get the slide to go away, all right? I think if I end slideshow and discard the annotations, okay. Deliberate cognitive is straightforward thinking. Deliberate emotional is connecting the dots of the past. Spontaneous cognitive, or you have those sudden ahas. And then spontaneous emotional is when you have unpredictable magic. And I think that you can get into any one of these mind states whenever you want to, but sometimes you're stuck. Sometimes you can't solve a problem because you're trying to solve it with the wrong tool, and you need to maybe switch gears and shift gears to one of these tools. And the whole idea of magic is interesting, right? Because if you think about it, magic could be good or bad. I'm not talking about sorcery. I'm talking about like unexplained successes and failures in your life, right? Things that maybe you have no idea why it happened, or you don't really have control, and somehow you make sense of it. But magic can be good and bad, because I joke sometimes about the magic folder on your computer. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I guarantee you do. You have a magic folder on your computer with, and maybe it's in the cloud nowadays, but there's a magic folder of things that you've bought, that you had the best of intentions for, right? And you put it in a safe little folder, and you said, it's in this folder. I'll get to it really, really soon, and my life will be completely different, and my business will be a breeze once I've put this new tool into use, or once I've gone through this course. And I'm going to make sure I'll put the username and the password in a little text file, and I'll put it in that folder. I'll know right where it is, and then you end up not using it or not finishing it. And it's okay that you do this, because you are not alone. We all have a magic folder in some form or another. It's good to have a goal. It's good to know what you want. And it's good that you still keep the dream alive, because there are so many people who have started before you and started after you in their own business journey, and they have given up, and you're still here. And that's great. And I applaud you for that. But instead of thinking about a magic folder, what about the magic box? In software, we call this a black box, right? If you want something done, if you want a professionally edited YouTube video, should you go and buy video editing software? Should you buy a video editing course? Should you spend 6 months playing around with trial and error getting it to work? Or would you rather just spend $5 or $10 or $15 to have a video edited and then it's just done? And then all you have to do is to show up, and all the problems that you have in your life swirling around in your head, just focus on your own problems. Don't create new problems for you, right? If your problem right now is you want more sales, you want a bigger list, you want more content, focus on that. Don't add to it and say, I also need to learn this software as well. That's falling into that habit of creating new obstacles in your path, which is what we don't want for you. But what we do want for you is for you to have access to this magic chat room, which, I mean, I don't know of an easy way to show this to you, but we'll have to be careful what I do show to you. We have a magic chat room, and what happens many times in this magic chat room is that we say, hey, you just sent us this podcast episode. Here's the blog post that we've generated based on it. Or if you say, hey, I've got this new recording, and I want you to put this on YouTube, publish it as my blog post, put it on as a podcast, just send me the file in this magic chat room and it will magically get done, and we'll just tell you when it's done. So think about if you, instead of having the magic folder that should be great but does not live up to expectations, what if you could send a text message to us and say, well, hey, I'm looking for, I want a different theme song for my podcast that you've been running for me. Can you give me a couple of choices? Or what if you say, well, I was posting on Facebook already, but I don't want to manually post anymore. Can you just post on Facebook for me? Or you say, well, I want to start posting on LinkedIn. Here's my username and password. Whenever I put out a new podcast episode or I send you a new recording, just plop it on LinkedIn for me. Well, Instagram, I have not been consistent with that. Can you start posting on my Instagram for me? This is the magic chat room that we want to have for you, where you can tell us, publish this podcast episode, put this on social media. So we've been talking up to this point about making things easier on yourself, right? And like thinking in different ways and removing things. But what is this all leading towards? Well, this leading towards the promise for today, which are the 3 income streams. And I limit it to 3 because it's easy to say, here's 80 income streams and you're going to love it. And you're going to be so overloaded, right? You'll start off really excited saying there's 80 ways to make money here. And if only I pick up on like 30 or 31, then like I'll be really set. How about just 3? Because there are a million ways to make money, just like there's a million ways to lose weight or drive across the country. There's a million ways to do it. And a lot of people get excited about maybe the experimental or the advanced ways of making money. And I know that you might say to yourself, well, I want to be advanced, right? Advanced means I'm really scaling. I'm really like blowing up my bank account. But here's the problem is that experimental forms of making money are hit or miss. And they're things that you should be doing later, right? They're things that you should be doing for fun, which is maybe more of a gamble. But how about starting off with a really simple foundation? Because it's really tempting to say, I want to have a site that charges $8 a month and I'll just get 1,000 people in it. I'll get 10,000 people and I'll just have this little $8 a month membership site. And I don't know what it'll be about, what will be in it, but $8 a month, who wouldn't want it? Or I want to create a piece of software because who doesn't like software? And I want to make it monthly because I'm seeing that there's all this other software out there, but then you're really getting yourself into something that might take a lot of thinking, might take a lot of work, might take a lot of time. And there are all kinds of things that we could go into, like e-commerce or even like live events. But to be honest, if all you did was you had software, or all you did was you sold an e-commerce product, or you had live events, I don't think that these things are really a business. And I'm sorry. But if you have a live event and you don't sell other things, it doesn't lead to something else, then I'm not sure if it really is a business. And the 3 income streams for you to be thinking about and pursuing for yourself are, first of all, this idea of like a coaching program or like a done-for-you solution. And this could even be something that's not even monthly. So if you say, well, my expertise is in making a membership site for you, making a course for you, then here's this button where for $5,000, I will meet with you and I'll make a course for you, right? So something that is done for you. So even if you don't have a humongous list or a humongous following, the right person can pay you money for you to do something for them. Not show them, not teach them, not give them tips, but literally do something for them for whatever price that you're worth. And then I think that once you have a process, a system, that pretty much leads to an information product. And so, for example, I have a bunch of different podcasts, and one of my podcasts is for things happening in this local town here. And so based on what I did, I made a quickie little book called Local Podcast System. And it was really easy to make, because I just took screen grabs and I just wrote instructions of the things I do to record a podcast just for my local hometown and report the local news. And the punchline at the end of the book is, sure, I showed you how to do it. I showed you all the things to click on, all the step-by-step. But even with you knowing how to do this, wouldn't you rather someone just like me just do it for you? Like, even if you knew how to lose 100 pounds, if someone could lose 100 pounds for you, wouldn't you rather go for that? And so there's a done for you kind of, you should have a done for you offering for your business. You should have a kind of like a learning, like a information product or a course for your business, even if you only sell 10 copies, just so that way you further show that you know what you're talking about and you can try out different ideas. And you can see, well, I want to put out a course about this real estate method, but I don't know if anyone will buy it. We'll put it out there, see how it sells, and measure your success, not based on how clever you think the idea is, but did other people buy it? Did other people pay you money for it? And then, I think that we all have kind of residual income. We have lots of little itty bitty things that add up to a lot, like going to speaking gigs and like selling books, or like selling our book at break even or selling our book at a loss in order to build the list. And I think that you need to have these 3 income streams: something done for you, something that's an information product, and then all the tidbits, all the scraps that are maybe you're breaking even on or losing a little bit of money on, that is continuing to maybe keep your business alive and ideally grow it. And it comes down to your list, your traffic, and your offers. And if you think about your business in terms of these 3 buckets, I think it means that you only need to focus on 1/3 of it at a time, instead of this big whole honking mess, because there's always new ideas, traffic sources, things you can do. But think about it in these terms: your list, have email subscribers, have social followers, have existing customers you can go back and market to, have referral sources, people who maybe don't buy from you directly, but recommend you and tell everyone else how great you are. And then you build a list from traffic, right? You post on social media. If you know how to do pay-per-click ads, that's part of traffic. There are things you can do, like sponsorships, in a way, like pay someone else with an email list money, or someone else with a social following, pay them money in order to promote you. That is a bit of a shortcut. Have an affiliate program. That way other people can link to you and get a commission. And what is this all leading to? Well, offers. And if you think about it, the thing that you sell is not really that important, because there are so many other affiliate programs that you can sign up for and promote, or other people that you can recommend and network with. So, and also the other thing too about this is, you're not going to have just one offer in your life. You're not just going to sell one thing in your life. And you might promote things as an affiliate, or say, this week I feel like doing one of these like done for you things, or I feel like putting out a new course or a book. So think about this in terms like of this, of how big is your list? Is that the thing that needs growing these days? Maybe. Think about your traffic. Are you just going through the motions with social posting, or do you have a real plan to get traffic from Facebook, from Google, from YouTube, from LinkedIn, from TikTok, all back to your site? Or are you just seeing what sticks to the wall? And what needs more attention for you right now? Well, I think that traffic is the hardest thing. And everyone focuses on, well, how many followers or how many likes do I get? But what I'm more concerned with is, how much traffic am I getting? And am I getting the right traffic? And there's good news though, because you probably already have traffic. You probably just need to work your list. And the list could be, if you're trying to land a local client in town, then build a list of every business owner in town. If your goal right now is to land some coaching clients, go back to your customer list. Anyone that's ever bought from you, work on each of those people. And so what's great about what I've been doing these days is the list I'm working the most is my list of podcast guests. I have a podcast right now where we just recorded episode 795 yesterday, and every single person who I've had as a guest on my show, I've followed up with, spoken to, posted about on social media, posted about on Facebook, and definitely not all, but a good percentage have bought something or helped promote me in some way. Think about working your list. Talk about your solutions, your niche, your problems that your customers have. And when I say talk about, what do I mean? I mean, post about this kind of thing, right? If you're a blogger or you like to tweet or you like to post videos, figure out what kind of solutions are out there for losing weight or for selling on eBay or whatever problem that you solve. What are the various solutions? And we call this organic search engine material content. And I don't think you'd find anyone successful on social media who goes more than a week without posting socially. You have to always be posting. And then you also won't find anyone successful who just ignores email marketing. And it blows my mind. And there's a disconnect where the people that have like businesses that just run like clockwork, they always are posting on social media. You get on their list, you always get emails, but then you yourself don't want to post consistently socially. You yourself don't want to send out regular email blasts. So do these things and think outside the box with your keywords. Think about what sorts of people you want to mention publicly on social media, on your blog posts, on your YouTube channel, on your podcast. Think about products you use or you want to be associated with. So for example, I used that example earlier of, let's say you're someone who wants to create someone's course for you. Wouldn't it make sense to make a YouTube video, make a podcast reviewing Kajabi, Infusionsoft, Thinkific, all these other platforms that solve these problems, and then say, hey, come to me and I'll do it for you. And if you're dead set on using Ontraport to run your course, then I can build it out in Ontraport. But if not, my default is this. Why give people extra steps in order for you to only be, I'm just the ClickFunnels person. I'm just the Thinkific person. Remove the steps, take away, don't add, make it easy for people. And in my mind, I think of it like this, and I didn't invent this, but this has been so helpful for me, is think about these 5 different types of people. You have people out there who don't even know they have a problem. Then they evolve into people that do have a problem and they know what the problem is. They just don't know how to solve it, right? They know that they're in poor health. They know that they're overweight, but what's the solution? The solution could be, well, I know I need to get on this type of diet because I don't like exercise. I don't like all these extra rules. So I'll go on this specific type of diet. And then that evolves into, well, now am I going to go for like the keto diet or like an Atkins diet? What product will I use to solve my problem? And then what that leads into, once they know what product they will use, now they have awareness and they're like inches away from that buy button. And this is how you get the Joe Rogan, Tim Ferriss, Gary Vee type of celebrity where they'll listen to anything you say, they'll buy anything you say because you've walked them up to that point. Or maybe they started over on like, when they found you, they knew what the solution already was, or they didn't know what the problem was. And all of this is why things like just putting out the free content helps you so much. Having social posting, having YouTube video posts. But I know it's all overwhelming. And the answer is, well, first of all, give your people what they need to get to the next step. But also have a podcast. Start with a podcast. And for me, a podcast means video, right? And it doesn't have to for you, but it's a lot easier if you know how to join a Zoom room, you know how to click a record button and say some stuff. Talk for 5 minutes. Talk for 5 or 10 minutes, and as long as you think you need to talk, and then we can recycle that in so many different ways. We can take your one recording, put it on a podcast, put it on YouTube, put it on social media, like we were showing with some of these examples. Then you can send an email blast, you can tweet about it, we can make graphics about it, we can make video clips about it, but it starts with you are moving steps for yourself, not pursuing perfection, and then just give your people what they need to get to the next step, where ideally they get to that most aware stage where they know you, they like you, they trust you, they're ready to buy from you. But if they were not quite there yet, how would you tell them about what your product was? And if they weren't quite ready to know about your product, how would you tell them what the answer is to their problem? If they were not ready to hear the answer, how would you better explain them their problem? And if they're not at that point either, how would you tell them that they even have a problem in the first place? And so I hope that you're kind of getting this idea that the more you think about it, the more you drive yourself crazy. So there's no point in drilling down to all these step-by-step details. It's good to have some ideas. It's good to be more or less pointed in the right direction. Don't have a plan. Don't have a year of content ready to go. Instead, change your habits. Think about exercise, right? If you went and threw out all the junk food in your fridge and you said, I'm never eating fast food again, I'm only drinking water, you would be miserable. But if you ate a little bit less junk food every day, if you went for a quick walk once a week, these could be things that slowly change your habits. And one habit I think that you need to have is getting good at off-the-cuff speaking, where you begin with a problem, you explain a principle that relates to it, then you tell someone about a solution, and then tell them an action that they need to take at the end. And block out your time on your calendar for just thinking about what problems need solving and what quick videos could you create to help solve this problem. And even if you were out of ideas, interview others for your show. Have other guest experts who do what you do, who do something similar to what you do something completely different, and get them on your show. And anything that you create, think about this whole why, what, how to, what if concept. Why am I listening to you in the first place? What problem are you setting up? Is the problem that you need to get out of debt? You need to lose weight? You need to build an e-commerce brand on Amazon? What's the problem? And how do I know that you can sympathize with my problem? Then what tools exist for this? Don't jump into just solving my problem, but if I need to put something on Amazon as like an e-commerce product, well then I need to figure out a supplier, I need to get an account to sell, I need to get like shipping materials, I need to get these sorts of contacts. What just building blocks tools do I need to know to begin with? And then how do I solve this problem? And solving can mean many different things, right? Because solving can mean you're off in the right direction. Solving can mean, well, here's this inspirational story of how it can happen. So solving a problem doesn't mean start to finish all the time, or it could mean start to finish, but in a very like high level, big picture CEO, 100,000 foot view terms. And then what if I solve this? And what are my next steps? And what are my possibilities? And this formula even applies, and it especially applies if you have someone else on your show. I just had a cool guy yesterday afternoon, Dr. John Crutchfield, who talked about real estate, and I went through this process. Even though I don't know hardly anything about real estate, and even though my podcast is not a real estate podcast, I said, well, why should we even why should we consider real estate investing? And why should we consider your system? And what things do we need to know about your system? And what are the steps to going through your system? And now that we've gone through your system, what does that lead to? And then now how do we get your system? So just by thinking in terms of why, what, how to, what if, this makes your conversations fly in a podcast. And this way, now that tiny roadblock is out of the way, think about what mentors from years ago you can have on your podcast. We had another doctor do a podcast, and she had one of her professors from medical school on just to catch up. So you can even use your podcast as a way to catch up to people that you have not spoken to in many different years. Remember the 4 quadrants, the 4 ways of thinking? If you're thinking about past mistakes and insights, what about revisiting or reconnecting with people that you've known in the past? What about the present though? What about your best students or customers that you want to stick around? Or that mentor that you have and they're maybe passing you over? Have your mentor, have your guru, have your idol on your podcast, and that way you are forever associated with that person. And I'm speaking about the future, who do you want to be business friends with, even if they're a little bit out of your league. A few weeks ago, I interviewed someone from MindMeister. If you know what that is, they're a very popular mind mapping app. And I can't remember the reason they emailed me, but whatever the reason, I didn't care. I said, hey, instead of your issue, how about I get you on my podcast and we will talk about MindMeister and I'll promote it, and it only takes you 20 minutes. And now you will have a piece of content that lives on that I will promote forever. But guess what? I have that piece of content too. And now I'm building my list as well based on your name and your brand. And I'm using it to send people to your brand anyway, but everyone wins. And now you can climb the ladder and repeat, because it's like, I don't know, if you think about it in terms of like being like a hot blonde girl, right? Everyone wants to be around you. Everyone wants to be your friend. So how do you be the hot blonde girl in internet marketing? Well, it's to have interesting experts and have somewhat famous-ish names on your podcast, which then leads to other somewhat famous-ish names. And now you have all these episodes. Now you have all this traffic. Now you have this list. Now you've monetized it. Now other people want to be on your podcast, want to be friends with you. And now it's like you've elevated your status. So now this way, other people with similar elevated status then want to gravitate towards you. And now you can pick and choose who you want to be friends with. And you don't have to settle and just stick with where you're at, or maybe like sell your soul to impress this one person. Now you have access to all these different people, and you can pick and choose who you want to do business with, who you want to be like, who you want to be friends with. And if that guru or mentor passes you over, lets you down, you can go find someone else, because you have so many more options now, because you're just a little bit more sociable when it comes with podcasting. And here's the key to making this work. Don't have a niche with podcasting. Podcasting is the opposite of a niche, right? So I spoke to someone else yesterday who is some kind of an elder care specialist. And if she were to limit her podcast just to things you should know about elder care, she would run out of content very quickly. But if she also has a retirement planner on her show, if she also has I don't know, like someone who runs a nursing home on her show, if there's someone who is an expert in like navigating like a veterans affairs, kind of like a healthcare system. So you can have all these people who are in the periphery of your niche, who you would not have known otherwise, who you would not have been friends with otherwise. And now you get them on your podcast. And remember how he said there's that problem unaware type of person, then you move them up to problem aware, you move them to solution aware, move them to product aware, move them to most aware. You need to have things that speak to each of these types of people. And so not everyone is going to know exactly what it is you sell. Not everyone is going to know exactly that industry term or that jargon you use might need explaining. And there are so many things to figure out that it does not make any sense whatsoever for you to be at all thinking, concerned, knowing about technical details, because there's already so much to think about, so much to do. And I would rather give you access to our magic Slack chat room, which I showed you a minute ago, where it's just you, me, my team, and whoever else on your team you want to join. And this way you don't have to think about the details with podcasting. That'll work itself out, because we're using one of those 4 quadrants of thinking. So think about this. You say, I want a podcast. If I could have figured it out by now, I would already have one. So I'm stuck. How do I even make a podcast? Well, the answer is you join our magic Slack chat room. We'll ask you some questions. You give us some answers, and we'll give you just a few choices. We'll say, well, how about this for some podcast cover graphics? How about these ideas for some music to add for your intro? We'll give you some ideas to get you just to get an episode out there. And once you get up and running, it might still be a little bit awkward, but you'll get used to sending us links or attaching files. And you can do this on your phone or your computer or whatever. It's like sending a text message. You can text us over a video clip, or you can say, I posted a new YouTube video, or here's a video or audio attachment, whatever. And then you give us access to whatever accounts you want us to post on. If you want us to post to your podcast, your YouTube, social media accounts, we have all the fancy schmancy tools to do it on a schedule, and we can even just log in and do it for you. But we want to help you get up and running with your podcast, so that it gets into smooth sailing time when you can just send us an episode and say, new episode, here you go. And it all just happens. And then, and even just the time it would take you to post to 10 or 20 sites or edit a video or add a graphic at the beginning, don't worry about any of that. Just send us a text, send us the latest and greatest clip of yours. And that way it just happens. Because with your podcast, you should be maybe vague booking a prospect's problem, someone who you want to buy from you, kind of in vague terms, explain their problem. That way they say, oh my gosh, I just had this problem. This person was talking about it. Now I want to go talk to them or buy from them. And think about what your prospects want to talk about, but what your competition won't, because maybe they're missing the mark. And do your best to meet people where they're at. Speak to their fears, no matter how weird or simple those things may be to you. And we've helped people do this again and again. We have one of our clients here, Erin Frame. She has this Sober Fierce brand and podcast, and she'll send us a video file, and we will fake live stream it onto this Facebook page, and we put it into all these different areas. We have this other client, Maria Romano, who is super good at posting consistently. She'll say, here's my website, here's my product. She'll live stream a few hours later. She'll post this graphic a few hours later. She'll reuse a clip from a previous live stream hours later. You need to be doing all this. You need to be everywhere all the time, but without adding, right? You don't want to add to the complexity of your life. Let us handle the complexity and let the whole idea of social posting and putting out your content and cutting it up and all that, take that away from your own life. Let us do that. And the place to do this, and by the way, like I've got my own podcast with hundreds of episodes, and now these are all people, this is all content, and these are all people that I pursue to make some sales, to help promote whatever else I need promoting, and also to help them. That way we get all these crazy relationships. And how many live events or how many cold calls would you have had to make all these connections? Or just show up for a quickie podcast interview. Let me and my team handle the technical details. And the place to go is dfypodcast.com/production. And this is what we're talking about. This is a service here where we'll edit, we'll process, we'll upload, we'll schedule, and it all happens inside of this magic Slack channel. So you can contact us anytime that you want. You don't have to go and like send an email or like make a phone call. You just go and send a quick message, and then we get the message and get the response back to you. And we do, if you're really that curious about all the fancy technical things, we have this list here at dfypodcast.com/production, where we say things like, yes, we'll do ID3 tagging, if you know what that is. Yes, we'll level it. We'll do all the things that a podcast needs. But basically, at dfypodcast.com/production, every month you can send us up to 15 podcast episodes. And this just means load us up. If you have a few episodes per month, that you have a bunch, just whatever you have, give it to us, and we'll do all the magic that needs to happen, like adding music. If you say, well, my show has this sponsor, drop this audio clip into the middle. If you want us to publish to your podcast host, Anchor is a free one, but then Libsyn and PodServe and Buzzsprout are other ones that they charge a very low monthly fee. So if you are dead set on a podcast host, we'll just log into wherever the heck you want us to log into. We'll create podcast notes. That way you pick up on that organic search keyword traffic. We will create social graphics for your show. We'll write tweets. We'll write emails. We'll do all the things that your show needs in order to meet people where they're at and to present information in the same way, but in these different formats. Because social media, you kind of have to do that, right? You kind of have to have lots of short video clips and lots of little graphics and link to your website or link to your show if more people want that. But yeah, we will take the input from you, which is a video clip, and then output graphics, output video clips, and put it all where it is going to put. And so dfypodcast.com/production, up to 15 podcast episodes per month. So basically whatever you can throw at us. We will do all the geeky audio stuff. We'll add in whatever intro or music. And so, like I said, at the beginning stages, we might kind of play around with some ideas. But then once you make your decision, then moving forward, it will just happen. Moving forward, just send us a clip. We'll add an intro, outro music. And now you don't have to think about it. It just happens. We'll schedule your podcast episodes. We'll do whatever editing you need us to do. We'll make notes about it. We'll name your podcast if you want us to. We'll make quick still graphics for like Twitter and Instagram based on quotes that you said or your guests said from the episode. We'll write tweets for your one episode. We'll write a 100-word email for your episode. And this is every time you send us one. So literally, you push a button and say, psh, here you go, Robert and team. Here's the latest video clip, and we'll turn it into all these things. You'll have a YouTube video, you'll have a blog post, it'll be on your podcast, all this from you pushing a button. And we have different plans, but basically the middle plan on that page, which at the moment, this is gonna make the webinar non-evergreen, but at the moment, it's $140 a month to have all this, to have us. You give us the podcast episode, we'll edit it, we'll post it for you. And then the higher plan is where we'll submit your show to podcasting directories, we'll stream your show on Facebook Live, we'll post it every day and post little tidbits in between episodes to Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and we'll build up a content library for you. That way you'll have ideas for new episodes. That way you'll have other things to post other than just episodes of your podcast. And all this, it's not $1,000, it's not $500. At the moment, it's $225 a month. And I absolutely 100% do not take offense if you try us out for a month and then cancel. And then if later on, if you pick up podcasting again, start us back up. There's no contract, there's no yearly, there's no minimum commitment. Just join us, try us out. If you have been held back up to this point, setting up a podcast, maintaining a podcast, staying consistent with your podcast, growing your podcast, getting attention to your podcast, what if it was simple? Well, it can be simple at dfypodcast.com/production. And as we wrap up, wind down, can we do each other a favor? Like, can we just keep it simple? Instead of you focusing on all this pay-per-click traffic or focusing on EQ levels or bit rates, just figure out the big picture. Big book a prospects problem. Talk about what your competition and your prospects, or think about what your prospects want to talk about, but your competition won't. Meet people where they're at. Speak to your customers, your future customers' fears, no matter how weird or simple it is to you. I mean, think about how sometimes like phrases or ideas or like negative talk sometimes get stuck in your head about everyday life. Imagine people who are stuck with the problem of like renting out homes for real estate, or the people who want to build a thriving eBay business, or people who want to like publish a book. Think about people who have all these weird fears, and maybe they even know that they're irrational fears, but they need you to give them even a way of feeling better. And think about those times when you've maybe made weird Google searches. Have you ever done this? You've gone to YouTube and said like, how do I get excited? How do I feel better? Or then said like, how do I, is there a better way to clean a bathroom? Is there like maybe like, I don't know, fashion tips, but people are making all kinds of weird searches. And you need to be picking up on all these searches. You need to have all these little tidbits of content that solve really specific problems. That way, if someone does a specific search, they find you specifically. And then that way, you're on their radar. Now they follow you on social, on their email list. And if you have something to buy, if it's a product, a done for you, affiliate offer, whatever, then when it comes time for you to sell something, then now they can buy from it. And you having a bigger following is the key to not scrambling. And I think that the bigger list that you have, and by list, I mean email subscribers, social followers, the bigger that list is, the less you have to scramble. Because think about this. What if you put out a course and there was just only a limited number of people on your list who you know would buy it? You know you'd sell 20 copies, right? You do that, but then, well, shoot, now I have to go and make another course just to sell 20 more copies. Whereas if you had a huge list, and you know if you made one course and you sold 2,000 copies, you could live off that that one little bit of work for a longer time. And so we both know that you need to have a bigger list, a bigger following, but there's only so much time in the day, and you should only have to show up. So join dfypodcast.com/production. We'll add you to our Slack channel, and then this way you can send us whatever your recording is. One recording, first episode, next episode, 10 episodes, whatever you want to send to us. These could be recordings on your smartphone, on your web camera, over Zoom, via screen capture. And you know when people say, well, what should the branding of my show be? What should the look of my show be? I would actually prefer if you mixed it up. I would prefer if sometimes you were on a web camera, but sometimes you were selfie on a phone, because there'll be more variety that way, and you'll pick up different people in different ways. So you give us just that recording, we'll add a title, music, outro, put it on your podcast host. We'll add it to YouTube. And even though, sure, logging into YouTube and clicking one button and uploading, I know it's just a few seconds, but doing it every time, doing it hundreds of times is not something you want to do or think about. Just send us the recording. We'll do all this stuff. We'll create podcast notes with timestamps for your blog and for your YouTube description. And so an example of this is this real estate guy that I told you about, who's one of our clients. You watch his video on YouTube, but I think there's closed captionings on this. And not only that, but when you get to like a special section somewhere in here, it puts, if there's something that's really important, it places this right here on the screen. And not only that, but now there's all these keywords. It's talking about like borrowing money in real estate, and it's talking about investing in your business, and it's talking about long-term relationships. And so what's really interesting about this is that first of all, most YouTubers, they just have the title, right? And maybe if they have a description, it's like the same old thing. And this way, if someone searches for things like long-term relationships or investing in real estate, then now these keywords pick that up, and they can also go and jump to just this part of the video, right? If you say, well, I want to jump to the part about how partnerships can be frustrating, so I click on that, and it just jumps to that part of the YouTube video. And we give you still graphics with important quotes for your Instagram and for your Facebook. We put out 30 to 60-second video clips with burned in subtitles for Instagram. We put out bite-sized tweets. We make a promotional email. That way you can broadcast it, put that on Facebook, put that on LinkedIn. So I know that you're missing so many of these pieces, and it's okay, but also you shouldn't be doing it yourself. And I honestly also think that no one person can do it. I think that you need a team, but usually a team means thousands of dollars. How about instead you use Done For You podcasting with all these things we talked about? You send us one recording, we put it all the places, and then this bigger package here is where we will live stream it for you. We'll recycle it on your social media, and we'll make it where like you only have to have an idea, speak a few things out, and then it builds your business. It's $225 a month. Cancel anytime. Go to dfypodcast.com/production. Go here now. It's time. We are about to shut down this call, shut down this webinar. The place to go is dfypodcast.com/production. If you don't do this now, when will you do it? And if you have not figured out podcasting on your own, and all the extra add-ons, all the extra facets. Geez, I forgot to put my podcast on YouTube. Geez, I forgot to make extra little video clips. Geez, I forgot to make social graphics. Geez, I forgot to send an email blast to my list to tell them about this episode. What if you had all these pieces in place? Well, you can and you will by going to dfypodcast.com/production, dfypodcast.com/production. And here's where we have all the bullet points, the finer details, and you can go here and choose the plan that it's for you. And like we said, this lesser plan, all it is podcast editing. You give us a file, we say, here's the process file. But what people love is you give us the file and we'll publish it for you. And then the upper package here is we'll do all that. You give us a file, we'll publish it for you, but we'll also constantly be posting to your social media. So the place to go right now is dfypodcast.com/production, and we will see you there. This is Robert Plank from dfypodcast.com/production. Get into that magic Slack channel. I want to talk to you. I want you to talk to me. I want us to set up your podcast. I want us to give you some choices, and I want to take away from all the stress and hassle and the things that are happening in your day. You're doing too much already. Do less and make more. Go to dfypodcast.com/production. And once you're in, I will see you inside the magic Slack chat room, dfypodcast.com/production. Robert Plank, see you on the inside.